Welcome back to Beer Fuel Fantasy Football. We are here, part 6 of 8, AFC West division preview. Finish out these Western United States. Are you guys excited to talk some AFC West?
I'm really excited.
Super pumped
about this.
All right. We are Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. You can find us at Beer Fueled FF on Twitter, Instagram, and on Untapped. Find other reviews for all of our beers that we drink on the show here. Individually, I am at Nick Sparts. Dan Theory across the table from me.
At Theory BFF. What's up, guys?
And rocking the main laptop is Christopher Hopper.
At Hot BFF with 2 Ps.
And joining us on the phone is Justin Pickle from the Hateful podcast. You can find him at jpickle, TH8FF, and at the Hateful8FF on Twitter.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. Appreciate coming in. It's definitely different being on the other end, being the guest, and not knowing, like Ricky Bobby says, I just don't know what to do with my hands right now, because normally I'm tapping on the keyboard or tapping on the iPad. But thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Glad to have you on the show. I know you were one of the first podcasts we ever interacted with on Twitter, but we hadn't had you on a show yet, so I'm excited you're able to jump on this one with us.
Same. Appreciate it.
Yeah, actually I am too. That's exactly what I told my girlfriend, live studio audience, as she's known to our listeners, when we were out at a burrito place for lunch today, was that, that Pickle was one of the first people that we interacted with, but we hadn't had him on yet, and it was weird to me. So glad you're here.
All right, then
thanks for having me.
And then one last reminder in this episode, because we'll be doing the drawing before we air any more episodes after this. If you want to try to get an entry into the Dynasty Listener League, email beerfuelfantasy@gmail.com with one of 3 things: a screenshot of you liking us on Facebook, subscribing to us on YouTube, or leaving us a review on iTunes. You can do all 3. It'll get you 3 entries total, 1 for each. And we'll be doing that drawing shortly after we record our next episodes on Sunday the 24th, I believe. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to add before we hit a beer preview?
Nope.
Beer Fuel.
All right. And per their request specifically, we have Old Chub by Oskar Blues Brewing out of Denver, Colorado. Their 3rd time on the podcast. When we had them on last time, they said we needed some Old Chub, so I grabbed it for this episode. It's an 8% ABV Scotch-style ale. We'll give you a full review once we get through the top 2 teams here in the AFC West. Let's go ahead and kick off a division breakdown.
Division preview.
All right. And as always for these, we do a predicted finish order. So we decided that we thought the Chargers across the board were going to clean sweep this division. We thought they were the most talented team. Chiefs came in 2nd, Broncos 3rd, and Raiders would come in 4th. Let's kick it off first. And Pickle, you are a Raiders fan, correct?
No, actually, I'm a Cowboys fan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I messed up on my research then. We try to get somebody on from each division who's a fan of the team, but whatever.
Can we pretend you're a Raiders fan for this episode?
for the next hour and a half.
I could be a fan of any of the AFC West. They're all really good offensive defense.
You're a Chiefs fan for this episode.
Yes.
Sounds great.
All right. The sub-Chiefs fan, Justin Pickle. Perfect. All right, let's kick it off first with the Chargers. They were a top 10 team in points per game at all 4 positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. They have lost Hunter Henry to the year with an ACL tear, but I want to kick it off at the top of the depth chart with Phillip Rivers. What are we projecting for him in 2018?
So first and foremost, I think I like what the steps that this defense has taken. They came on last year. They were great against the pass. They added a lot up front also. So I think this defense actually takes the next step. For Phillip Rivers, he's got a career 5.3 per touchdown percentage. Interceptions and turnovers are normally his issue, but he had a career low last year on his interception rate. So I expect the Chargers to run a little bit more, throw a bit less because of the defense. He's got weapons all over the place, but with Rivers, I think it's just more of the same. He's going to be in your streamer conversation. If there's an injury or something, he could sneak into the back end in top 12, but the turnovers will keep him from being there. And I think the defense kind of tempers his volume a little bit this year.
You pretty much just read my notes. You hit on his 1.7 career low interception rate. It's the 2nd time he's posted a sub 2 interception rate, so we do expect that to probably rise back up to 2 around there. He was a QB9 last year, 16.9 points per game. And just like you said, you know what you're going to get from Rivers. You're going to get some dominant stretches. You're going to get some lackluster stretches. It's just, he's a great streaming quarterback and a guy that's worth drafting in the 10th round, which is where he's going right now.
All right. Justin?
For me, I've got Phillip Rivers in my top 10 for quarterbacks. I mean, it's hard to take a guy out of the top 10 who has pretty much finished in the top 10 for majority of his career. He has been. I think there was only 1 or 2 years in his career that he's been outside the top 10. So, and the team seems to be offensively full strength with all the wide receivers. And if Mike Williams is back, and I know that it does hurt a little bit with Hunter Henry, unfortunately, being injured, but I think that they're going to pick it up in the run game, and then the wide receivers will step it up in the red zone.
Yeah, I think Mike Williams actually benefits a lot from Hunter Henry being hurt.
Yeah,
Most definitely.
And Rivers was in my top 10 before the Henry injury, but that slid him just outside. He's now my 13th, which is where he's going in ADP as the 13th quarterback off the board.
Did the same thing.
So I still think he's a high-end QB2, and if you wait on quarterback, he'd be a great double pair if you want to grab him and, say, Mariota, Winston, somebody like that as a double pairing.
Yeah. He's got all the weapons in the world.
All right, let's kick it off to Melvin Gordon. He was 6th in points per game last year at 17.9 in full point PPR. Do you guys think he'll stay that high this season, or are you projecting a little bit of a regression for him?
I don't expect regression, actually. I expect his efficiency to be a bit better and his volume to go nowhere. They got Forrest Lamp back, who was their highly drafted rookie last year, and he got hurt. I believe they signed Mike Pouncey, which is also going to help up the middle, which is where Gordon typically runs. So I also project a little bit of a volume increase, not a lot, but a little bit. And again, this just goes back towards that defense taking the next step. The defense takes the next step. They're not throwing to win games. They're going to get up there. Teams that are in the lead are going to run the ball more, and that's going to fall squarely on Melvin Gordon to keep the chains moving. I do think his target volume regresses a little bit, though, because of a healthy Mike Williams. So in the addition of Justin Jackson, who I think could see himself get involved a little bit as a change of pace and kind of in the passing game, but then also what Eckler showed last year. So I think in the passing game he sees a bit of regression, but I think he's a better runner this year, and a little bit of bump at the goal line also because of not just efficiency with Pouncey and Forrest Lamp, but also because of an injury to Hunter Henry.
So you like him, you're bumping him more in standard than PPR than based on what you described.
Yes, I am bumping him more in standard than PPR. I think ultimately it's about a wash in half PPR. And, in full PPR, then it'll take him down a little bit. But he's still a top 10 for me, easy.
All right, Justin?
Yeah, I got to agree. I've got him just right on the end sides of the top 10. So I've got him at 8 for me. And that's, the guys like Bell, Gurley, Zeke, David Johnson, Kamara, Fournette, and Barkley all ahead of him. And I think my biggest knock on him is the fact that I have a feeling, and it just seems like they're wanting to save him throughout the season and not use him so much that it just sounds like Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson, like you said, the rookie out of Northwestern, are going to see some time. And I'm just unsure exactly how much you're going to see of them and how much points they're going to take off the board of him from last year, where I think he had like 250 some fantasy points. So I've got him somewhere right around that 240, 250 time window for fantasy points again this year, though.
Dan?
You guys hit on all the points. He's my RB9, hit 18 points per game last year in PPR leagues, which was good for RB5. A lot like Julio Jones, he's going to give you the number one week. He did it in back-to-back weeks this year, I think, early on. Then he'll give you a couple duds as his efficiency number. He's not the world's greatest efficient running back, as we've seen so far. It's sub 4 yards per carry all 3 seasons, but he's always good for 12 plus in PPR leagues. I think they're going to use him more, or not use him more. I think he may not get 83 targets, but they've already said they want to use him more in the passing game. The loss of Hunter Henry may give him an uptick a little bit in passing, just because he's been somewhat reliable for them in the passing game. So he's about as not safe, but he's good.
I had him just a little bit higher than Justin points wise. I got him at about 260, so not a ton higher, but
yeah, I have him at 9. I bumped the same list that Justin has, but I also moved Dalvin Cook in front of him too.
Same here.
Overall, though, I think he's going to be great, and I am a little concerned about Eckler and Jackson taking a large chunk of his passing down work, but I'm assuming he'll still get enough to still be top 10, top 12 at worst.
I think I projected him for 20 less targets.
Okay, that's probably about safe.
That's about career for him.
Yeah.
All right. Between Eckler and Jackson, if you're taking one in redraft, which one do you prefer? Actually, Justin, I want you to start this one.
Man, I really like Austin Eckler, and I think he's got at least a blueprint of what he can do when he's given the opportunity. But I just think something special about the Justin Jackson out of Northwestern. I just think something about him that by maybe quarter to halfway through the season, he's going to jump Eckler, whether that's by injury or just by overall performance.
All right. Well, Hopper and Justin are now best friends.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you. The first time I watched Justin Jackson, I fell in love with his tape. Except for the weird stiff arm thing he tries to do all the time, where he always looks like he's ready to stiff arm somebody. I think he's dynamic. I think he tested better at the combine than what I expected. Yes, Eckler has a blueprint for what he can do. You've seen him do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that shifts a little bit as the season goes on towards Justin Jackson.
Yep, I think it's Austin maybe the first couple weeks, and then Jackson will earn his way on the field. I'm with Hopper here and with Justin here. I love Justin Jackson. Hopper texted me while watching the film, and he was like, "You got to watch him." I'm like, "All right, cool." I fell in love with that tape. Eckler is, he was able to, prove it last year that he can be a decent chase and pace back. I mean, there was a point in time where he was flex worthy because he just had, the big play potential.
Yeah, and just the fact that he has done it in the NFL, I am sticking with Eckler as my choice between the two. I don't have not putting a lot of chips on him. He's my 59th running back in my rankings, but he's not even being drafted right now. Either is Jackson. So between the two, if I was going to grab one late in a deeper draft, Eckler would be my guy. Moving on to the receiving core, where do you guys have Keenan Allen ranked, who finished 4th in points per game in PPR last year?
Wide receiver 4. We got a little bit of hate for it too. They're like, why do you have him ahead of Julio Jones and Michael Thomas? And I'm like, because he's going to get fucking fed.
Yeah, he was, 6th in the league last year in red zone targets from the wide receiver position.
He finished 2nd with 24 targets. He finished as the number 1 receiver in red zone targets and only behind Jimmy Graham as a whole.
Okay, so even better than I might remembered.
So I had him at 5. I think 159 targets is kind of a lot to repeat with a healthy Mike Williams. Even with the loss of Henry, you've still got Travis Benjamin that's there. You're bringing Dylan Cantrell into the mix. He's a guy that at least athletically profiled really well and we know can block, which is going to put him on the field. Tyrell Williams. So Keenan Allen still clear-cut 1. I think Mike Williams is a clear-cut 2, but I think there's a slight regression from 159 targets. He really was the only wide receiver getting targeted last year. Melvin Gordon was 2nd on the team, and then the 2 tight ends, I think, combined to be 3rd on the team. So I like Keenan Allen, and like I said, he is my 5, so he's definitely somebody I'm happy to own in Dynasty and would be happy to draft and redraft. I just see the target volume falling back. I think I projected him at 139 for this year.
All right, Justin?
Yeah, I've got him. Man, we must be sharing notes. I've got him as my 5th wide receiver in half-point PPR this year, just ahead of Julio and Adam Thielen, but behind Hopkins, Brown, Beckham, and Michael Thomas. So I see definitely with the fact that there is no Hunter Henry, I think that increases his red zone targets as well, which, as you guys said, it was pretty high last year. So I don't know how much higher you can really get. But overall, I mean, he had like 229 fantasy points last year in half point. But I think I've got him projected out just a little bit above, right around the 210 mark for half point. And that's not because I don't think he's going to be good. I just think that Mike Williams is going to step up this year and be in there and kind of take some points away.
I got him at 206.9.
All right.
All right. I need to take a quick pause here. Did you just say that Adam Thielen was your wide receiver 7?
He is.
All right. I need to hear an explanation on that one.
I just think that I still just think that he is going to be the main guy in that offense for receiving wise, and I just think that he's going to get targeted. I know that Cousins likes to spread the ball around, but I just think that him and Thielen will gel well, and I think that Diggs is going to still be in that right around that 12, 13, but I just think that Thielen's going to be in that top 10 for sure.
All right, so you got both is
don't
borderline.
question his methods.
Just let it go. Let it go.
He's pumping up our offense, and Nick and I are big Vikings fans. So
we're off the rails here because we're with Vikings fans right now.
I just got one last follow-up question. How high do you have Cousins if those two are in the top 13?
Let me pull up my quarterbacks. I've got Cousins at number 5.
Yay, same here.
Okay.
Right. And back to our regularly scheduled division.
All right, we've mentioned Mike Williams quite a few times here. Where do you guys have him?
You start in with rankings, and I get ready to just present my argument
well,
things.
He's currently going at 11.9 in ADP, 51st wide receiver off the board.
I got him higher than that.
He's my 56. I am. It's not that I'm a huge Tyrell Williams truther, but this goes back to the Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson conversation of who do you want? The guy that's done it before or the guy that's got the potential upside to him?
He's 52,
Yeah.
but as I mentioned before, that's kind of my gut feeling rankings as I deep dive and project these guys out before we get into our actual rankings episodes. He's going to come up. He battled a shoulder injury last year. The injury to Hunter Henry makes him, I think, probably their best red zone option. And Rivers has supported two outside receivers in a past life with Wisenhunt as his offensive coordinator. So I personally have Mike Williams projected at... Hold on. Somebody else talk while I figure out where he went.
All right, Justin, give your take while he's figuring it out.
I got it.
Oh, go ahead then.
And I apparently didn't copy it over. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
All right, back to me. Mike Williams, I've got him projected out just under 90 fantasy points. So I just think he's going to take. I think him and Tyrell Williams are going to be fighting for that wide receiver 2 points on that team specifically. So I watched Mike Williams in college, and he just kind of had that. I don't want to call it DeAndre Hopkins type, but I mean, he is that kind of talented wide receiver. And I mean, coming out of Clemson didn't help either for his case. So,
I mean, yeah, his jump ball ability is unbelievable. So if they start feeding him in the red zone, he could start putting up points in a hurry.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he's played against pretty big competition, and he's not a slouch when it comes to that. And he enjoys the competition, which is always good for a main wide receiver.
I'm pretty sure I was right there with you. I apparently didn't copy it out of the projections worksheet into my actual rankings, and I'm not going to try to load that workbook while I'm recording a podcast. So,
we'll just say you said around 85. I said 86, so we'll just say you said 83, since we seem to be about 2 or 3 points off of each other.
Sounds good. Yep, I'm down with that. That's where I got
There
it.
you go.
All right, and then any thoughts on Tyrell Williams?
Not really. I mean, you had just a bunch of guys after Keenan Allen last year with Tyrell Williams and Travis Benjamin and whoever else took targets there. So with Tyrell Williams, he never took hold on the number 2. He only saw 4.2 targets a game. With Williams in house, Cantrell's likely going to take some snaps. You still got Travis Benjamin. Those last 3 are a crapshoot, and it's probably going to be a different one every game.
Yeah, well, Williams needed an Allen injury before he was relevant.
I still think Allen. I still think both Williams are going to compete against each other more so than anything. I mean, Williams played 12 games? Not 12 games, 9 games, and he still struggled to see the field. He struggled to get his targets. I do expect that to increase. Yes.
In his defense, he missed the majority of the offseason program due to his injuries.
Yeah.
And when you look at their target share, it was 153 for Keenan Allen. I think 80 some odd to Melvin Gordon, 86 to the tight ends between the two of them, and then everybody else is in the 50s and 60s.
I mean,
it wasn't meaningful.
I got them both ranked right next to each other. I think one of them will take this spot, and they're both going for their ADP wise, they're both going as a in the bench stash. So
I think Mike Williams is so much more talented than Tyrell Williams that I can't rank them that close.
And he fits a bigger need that this team has.
The red zone.
Yeah, the red zone versus they have 2 deep threats in Williams and Benjamin.
Yep. And then Cantrell's different than all of them because he's an underneath slot type of receiver. So
it's a big possession receiver.
Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It could be him. You never know.
This team's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Do we think there's going to be...
Hold on.
Actually,
Justin, your thoughts on those last 3?
What was the last 3?
It was
Sorry.
Tyrell Williams, Tyrell Williams, Travis Benjamin, Dylan Cantrell. Anything behind Mike Williams and Keenan Allen? Because I think it's just a bunch of guys.
I was going to say, if I had to pick somebody outside of Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, it'd have to be Tyrell Williams, just because I think he's probably got the most comfortableness, I guess, or comfortability with Rivers. So, yeah. I guess if I had to, I would put Tyrell Williams ahead of all the other guys. I'm not saying other guys can't have good weeks, but on a consistent week-to-week basis, I would trust Tyrell Williams.
All right. And then Justin, any thoughts on what they might do at tight end here?
Roll a dice and see who picked the right number before they suit up. I guess I don't know. Virgil Green is probably the best option, but I really hope that they go out and get Antonio Gates just to bring him back, because I feel like outside of that, Virgil Green is not the most prolific tight end. But
I mean, he's an amazing blocker, but he's not fantasy relevant.
Oh yeah, but I mean, in fantasy relevance, I mean, unless we start adding fantasy blocking points,
points per pancake.
Don't give Hopper ideas.
Points per pancake.
Yeah, and then you get a half a point loss for a hold call. So yeah, I mean we can figure it out. Link.
114. I was wrong earlier. 114 targets went to the tight end last season, but neither's going to play this year. So, they also combined for
on
7.
The Keenan Allen hype train. That's where
Yeah.
that's at.
Yeah,
They also
that's
combined
right.
for 7 touchdowns. I think that most of that does go to, Mike Williams and his 23 targets and offsets that. But some of that's going to go to Allen in the red zone. Some of that's just going to be converted into Melvin Gordon goal line opportunities. So for me, whoever's a starting tight end here, you have to like him just because of how much Rivers has traditionally used the tight end, especially in the shallow tight end pool. I think they kind of got to rise to towards the top of that, but I'm not in love with anything. If they re-sign Antonio Gates, then I'm at least intrigued more so than I am right now.
Or Kobe Fleener.
But I don't love anything there right now.
All right. Anything else we want to add on the Chargers before we move on?
Nope.
This is the offense I'm excited about.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the Chiefs. Substitute Chiefs fan, Justin, what do you think about the Chiefs overall?
I think they're going to be a high-powered, high-throwing offense this year. Don't be surprised if Patrick Mahomes is just throwing left and right, whether that's to Kareem Hunt or Tyreek Hill or Sammy Watkins or anybody else, Travis Kelce, whoever's ready to catch the ball.
All right. Well, let's kick it off first with Patrick Mahomes here. Where do you guys have him set up in your rankings as a one-game played quarterback?
First off, I want to look as a team statement real quick before we jump into the individual players. Looking back on 8 seasons of Andy Reid, which I just randomly selected between his Chiefs and Eagles tenures, looked at good seasons, looked at bad seasons. They've rushed 450 times once, but they will throw 600 plus times when the defense isn't great. And I don't think this Chiefs defense is going to be great. So I do think Mahomes is throwing all over everybody. So that being said, we've seen big arm quarterbacks like Mike Vick in this offense, typically around 60% completion. I think that Mahomes is better than that as far as being able to put a throw on the dime, as far as being able to sling the ball downfield, off balance, on the move. I think he's more accurate than even Vick was. He's going to throw his picks. I don't expect it to be terrible, but they're going to be there. He's a gunslinger, and you kind of get that with that. Offense does not tend to produce a high touchdown rate for quarterbacks. Smith and McNabb were both consistently around 3.8 to 4.2 on their touchdown rate. However, you factor in the fact that you've got 2 super big play wide receivers with a super big armed quarterback. This is going to be exciting. So I expect Mahomes to be very good out of the gate, better than what you would expect a first-year one-game starter to be.
So he's my 22. And I don't like the ranking, but it's the fact that we still don't quite know what he'll be in the NFL. We all love him here, and I do expect him to be fine. And it also just speaks to how good the depth is for quarterbacks this season, where I have no issue taking him. And he could be moved to my top 15 at some point just because of how crazy that depth is. But I have him at 22 right now.
And he's got legs. Legs help quarterbacks.
Well,
Yeah, he's not.
I think all quarterbacks have legs.
Mike White does not have legs.
Mike White does not.
But yeah, he definitely shows some ability to scramble and move. He's not a true move quarterback, but he's definitely kind of maybe like Jameis Winston
I was
almost.
just
where
about
he's
to
got-
say like Winston.
where he does have the ability to scramble for a few touchdowns.
So he could get 6 touchdowns this year. on the
He
ground.
could.
What do you got him at, Pickle?
I've actually got him at 21, just behind Andy
okay.
Dalton, and it's not because I think that Mahomes is less of a quarterback than Dalton, or Dalton's that much better than Mahomes. Andy Dalton's never finished outside the top 20, so can't really see putting Patrick Mahomes above him at the moment. But like you said, I think as we get closer to the season and we get in some preseason games, maybe some actual like practices, I mean, I could see him being bumped into the top 20 for sure. It's just at the moment there's still some what ifs going into mini camps and whatnot. So
Yeah,
I was
I
gonna.
agree.
I was worried I was gonna be low on him, but I'm actually have him at 19. So I guess
I was
it's the
gonna say
highest.
I was nervous. I was like, these guys are talking him up. I'm like, I have him at 22.
No, I'll end up higher on him. Just because I think that he throws for a ton of yardage given his receivers and given this defense.
No, I may bump him,
And I think he throw. And
that was my just initial ranking.
I think
same
they
here.
throw a ton, and I think he throws a ton. And even
I've got him at 4,000 passing yards this year.
I got him higher than that. So
Well, I've got him a little bit higher than that, but I just figure as a baseline, I've got him hitting at least 4,000 passing
Yeah.
yards this year.
yep.
I mean, given Kelsey, Watkins, and Hill plus everybody else, he should hit 4,000
Everything should be
yards.
great for him.
Yep.
He's going 16th off the board right now, 1107 in ADP. So that's a little high, but it's not high enough that I may not just grab him.
That's your pick your poison. Or that is just, pick what you want round for quarterbacks. Like I just said before, there's so much depth for streaming quarterbacks this year. I mean, I want Mahomes higher, but it's like I gotta wait and see what he's gonna be first. But
Yeah, as
you
we
can still
touched,
take him.
When we get to a soapbox episode, I'll give you my full thoughts on Mahomes.
yeah, we've touched on this
Oh,
multiple
boy.
times in this episode, in this show as well. There are from about quarterback 10 through about 24. It's just a mess,
Yep.
and you could bump Mahomes up to 12, and I wouldn't hate you for it.
Let's just say I love Patrick Mahomes, and I am not really ashamed of it. And I will probably live or die with it at some point in a league this
Well,
season.
I'm not surprised with you.
I am assuming you probably will. Moving on to Kareem Hunt.
Would you call Patrick Mahomes your Mahomes boy?
His homie?
Team name.
He is my
Mahomes
homie.
boy?
Actually, no, my IDP league, it is one for my homies. Because Mahomes is my quarterback, my other quarterback besides Kirk Cousins there.
Oh,
There you go.
All
I
right.
love that. It's so good.
Moving on to Kareem Hunt then.
Oh,
Dan, kick us off on this one.
Okay, so I spent a little bit too much time deep diving this because Hunt's one of the more controversial backs at the top of the draft. Right now he's going 109. He's the 9th running back off the board. I have him at 15. Not because I think Spencer Ware is said all be all, but because this is, I think, a unique time for Andy Reid is to use two running backs that have proven himself in this league, at least of recent past. But Hunt, it's hard to argue against him. I mean, a 78.3% opportunity share was his third best in the league. And advanced metrics fucking loved him. He's first in breakaway runs at 18, 6.6% breakaway run rate, which is good for 6. Fourth in yards per carry at 4.9, seventh in yards per touch at 5.5, second in drew rate, which is insane at a 42.2%, and first in yards created. Like, the guy is insane. It's just that middle stretch where you'll get some people telling you, don't worry about it. I'm saying you may have to a little bit because of the massive drop in production. So I looked at his first 5 weeks and his last 4 weeks, which would be his hot weeks. He had 176 carries, 1,006 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, 33 targets, 30 receptions, 254 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. He had a 5.7 yards per carry. During his bad weeks, though, that weird what the fuck was Andy Reid thinking week, which was 6 through 13, he was RB26 in 96 carries, 321 yards, no touchdowns, 30 targets, 23 receptions, and 201 yards, and a 3.3 yards per carry clip. I'm intrigued. I'm not sold on him being a first round pick or being one of my top backs.
So where is he in your rankings?
He's my 15.
All right. Let's go, Justin, then.
For me, I've got him. I feel like every other day it's kind of like a Kareem Hunt watch on my rankings. I keep going. I move him up. I move him down. I'm moving him all around. But I know the hokey pokey.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I was leading that way.
Kareem
No,
Hunt,
I've had him as low as
Kareem
14 and as high as 8, and I've got him currently at 10. And that's not because I don't think he's good. I'm just unsure of with a young quarterback and the fact that Mahomes is going to try to throw the ball a lot. I feel like more than down the field, a lot more than Alex Smith did, even though he did really well last year. I'm still kind of iffy in the fact of the disappearance that, as you said last year, where he was there on the field, but he really wasn't. That still is kind of like a question mark as to what happened and could that happen again. Because, I mean, let's be honest, everybody's drafting him and somewhere in that first, 9 picks. If he disappears for the middle of the season, which he did last year, I mean, shows back up right before the playoffs or in the playoffs, if you're really striving for that playoff spot, that could be hurting you as your RB1 is MIA. And I don't mean in Miami for those first 5 to 10 weeks.
So you said Kenyon Drake's your RB1? Is that what it is?
No, I'm not that guy.
All right. He did see 325 touches last year. I would not be shocked if that pulled back at least slightly, back closer to maybe 280, 300 range. He's also my 15 as well, just because I'm not 100% sold on this offense being quite as run-focused as it was with Alex Smith. I don't know if there'll be quite as many checkdowns to him. And there's just the top 15 running backs I really, really like. It's kind of after 15 is when it starts getting a little murky when you hit McKinnon.
Okay, I'll be the other guy. 12 games over 4 yards a carry, 6 with 5 or more targets, 6 in breakaway rate, 1st in evaded tackles, 2nd in juke rate, 5th in yards created per carry. He destroyed stacked and light front coverage, which stacked front really surprised me for him.
Oh, yeah.
Field stretchers outside, and this field is going to be open for him. Mahomes is going to sling it, so I'm not worried about the second half disappearance, at least not as worried as I would have been last year. Mahomes is going to sling it. You got 2 guys outside who are going to stretch it. You've got Travis Kelce running over the middle. They're not going to be able to stack the box against him. And even when they did, he went at 4.5 yards a clip. So, Andy Reid's will throw to his backs. Ware's going to be back. He'll take a little bit of that. But, for me, it was exactly what I projected last year when we talked about this, which is that Spencer Ware was going to fall off. Kareem Hunt was going to take over and not look back. Spencer Ware being back doesn't scare me off of Kareem Hunt. And I projected it that way. So I see Kareem Hunt being a focal point of this offense. I see him, running the football. I see the Chiefs in a lot of shootouts, and that doesn't take him out of this game because he's a viable receiver and he's great in the open field. And I think the second half disappearance, everybody has growing pains. He was a rookie. Part of that was he had a couple of inefficient games, but the other part of that was the play calling. And I don't think that the play calling portion happens again this year.
Well, Andy Reid has had a history of being weird with his play calling from time to time.
Well, that's just for me. It's not 1 or 2 games. It's a 8-week stretch for 7 games in a row where everything it was weird. But I agree with you. I mean, what happened between weeks 5 and 6 where Reid was like, fuck it, I want to move on.
Who knows?
And I'm not saying not to draft him. I'm just saying temper some expectations. I think they'll try to test Mahomes, especially early on, because he hasn't beat a team yet. He hasn't shown that he can beat, defenses consistently. So you may see more attacking on a guy like Hunt, but like you said, how much so? You got Cooks and Watkins there.
And he was
and
great.
Kelce.
And when they did stack the box on him, it didn't matter.
Okay. Enough on Hunt. Let's quickly touch on Spencer Ware before we move on to the wide receivers.
You mentioned his name. I'm done.
Cool. Anybody else?
I mean, 2016, he had 2016, he was 11th in total yards on the season. So he's at least proven that he can be, viable. It just depends how much Reid wants to use Ware and, West and other guys.
Spencer Ware.
I mean, he's going 14.02 in drafts right now. I'm going to take a shot at him in the 13th round.
I
if
would.
He's there.
I'm not.
Justin?
This is the epitome of what I guess the cliche handcuff is. I would have no problem taking Kareem Hunt in the first round and finishing out my draft with Spencer Ware just for that what if for Andy Reid's what am I going to do this week moment. So I'm just saying it doesn't hurt you. And I do think, the biggest thing for you guys just to know, the new offensive coordinator was the previous running back coach. He has a tendency to show that when he has more than one able back, to use both or 3 of them in some cases as much as possible in like a split carry setup. I'm not saying that's going to happen because Kareem Hunt is a lot better, but when Jamal Charles was there, they had no problem splitting it with Jamal Charles, Spencer Ware, Sharkandrick West, and Niles Davis at some point.
Oh, Niles Davis. There's a name I haven't heard in a while.
All right.
Just saying, pull names out of a hat.
So take a look at West as well then on the list, but I don't want to spend too much more time on the running backs here. Let's move on to the receiving core. Big 2 names are going to be Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. What do you guys think of these two, and which one do you prefer given their ADPs of 307 for Hill and 711 for Watkins?
Is this even a question?
Watkins,
Sammy Watkins, 712.
Watkins at ADP, but I still think Tyreek Hill's a better receiver here. He's got insanely good hands, being over a 70% catch rate both seasons. That's something you can't necessarily say about Watkins, even though he's never really had that accurate quarterback. He's never been efficient exactly. I think Tyreek Hill's catch rate will regress a little bit just with more of the gunslinger mentality. 15.8 yards per reception. I think that probably stays level. You got a bigger armed quarterback. And the thing that really jumped out to me, though, is I like wide receivers that can separate, that can give their quarterback just something to throw at. He was over 2 yards of separation per target. So
I know. It's insane.
You get a guy that can work downfield and get that much separation with a quarterback that has an arm that big. It's hard for me not to drool over that. I'm saying that at the ADP, I would take Watkins because I think that he does have upside and people are sleeping on him more. I don't hate Tyreek Hill at that draft position, though, which is not something I was saying last year because he's another one like Brandon Cooks that went in and showed that he can do it all. He ain't just a one-trick pony.
Oh, yeah. We were wrong about Tyreek Hill. Would you guys have both on your teams? Given this amount of discrepancy in the rounds being picked, would you draft both?
I'm weird about that.
If they both fell to a spot where I was like, I have to have them, yeah. Like, so if I could grab Hill in the 4th and Watkins in the 8th, I would take both.
Yeah, I could.
So if I was getting both at value, I wouldn't.
I do think Watkins will
reach
rise.
for both.
I don't think he'll end at 7. I think he'll end in the 5th. I think him and Hill will be pretty close together come third preseason game.
I'm actually doing a mock draft right now, and I considered Tyreek Hill at the 3. Oh wait, actually, he was gone before then.
All right, Justin, your thoughts?
All right, well, let me ask you guys straight up. Do you guys, when you hear the name Albert Wilson or Sammy Watkins, who do you think's a better overall wide receiver?
Well, I would think Sammy Watkins, but given
This
the
is
question,
a loaded
I'm
question.
going to go with Albert Wilson here.
No, well, Albert Wilson last year had 95 fantasy points and a half-point PPR. So, and Tyreek Hill had just over 200 with 201.7. So, you got to think that that Sammy Watkins is going to come in and get at least that if he's healthy for the season. I'm just saying that's the thing with Tyreek Hill. I think the biggest worry for Tyreek Hill is the fact that you got Sammy Watkins coming in, who is essentially a down the field, stretch the field type of guy, which essentially is a lot of what Tyreek Hill was doing last year. So I just think there's a lot of question marks. But ultimately, I'm taking Tyreek Hill over Sammy Watkins, obviously. But for ADP, Sammy Watkins sitting there in the 7th, 8th round is not a easy pass. So
See,
definitely.
I thought about that, actually, but I think that if they have somebody work underneath more, I think Watkins is more the guy that has the body to do that and the experience to do that.
And he's a good route runner when he's healthy.
Yeah, he is a good route runner when he's healthy. And I think this team just has to throw more. I mean, yes, Albert Wilson's not there, and you're absolutely right about that being the baseline, but I think look, this defense had one thing going for it last year, and that was their ability to take away footballs. And I don't think that they have that this year, especially not with Peters gone. So, yeah, I know Barry's going to be back, but I don't think that they ball hawk as much. I don't think they create as many turnovers. I think that they're in shootouts, which means Mahomes is going to have to throw it. I've got this team projected to throw about 50 more times than they did last year.
And I think that was a record year for Smith already.
It was.
It was. Not for Andy Reid, but a record year for Alex Smith is like 545 attempts or something like that.
So you're pushing him closer to 600
I can
this year?
definitely see 600.
589, I think, is where I have him at. Or
I got him about 551.
So for me, I think that they throw more, which means that, I've got Sammy Watkins projected at, I think, 90-ish targets and Tyreek Hill a little bit more than that. I got Tyreek Hill at 118 and Sammy Watkins at 98, I think.
Okay. That's a little
What
lower.
did you say you got Sammy Watkins at?
98.
98 fantasy points?
No, targets.
Oh, okay. What do you got him at for fantasy points?
Hold on, let me find him real quick.
I want to see if we're still on the same page or if we broke off from the train.
What do you have him at fantasy point wise?
I've got him just above 132 fantasy points.
Okay.
Which that puts him at a high wide receiver 3.
Yeah, that's a solid flex.
And I've got Tyreek Hill just above 190. So he takes a couple points off the board from last year. And that's because Sammy Watkins picks up the slack.
Oh, I got Watkins higher than that. I have it 97 for 58, 911, 7 touchdowns because of him being amazing in the red zone. That puts him at 164.
And that puts him at a decent wide receiver 2.
Yep.
All right.
Well, he's got talent. I mean,
Keep in mind,
pretty
I'm
fucking good at football.
projecting the Chiefs offense to be really high flying.
Hopper is a team Kansas City Chiefs.
I am team Chiefs offense, not defense.
Ultimate Madden code going with everybody being 99s across the
Everyone running verticals.
All right. Any other receivers you guys are interested in on this team?
No.
Hold on. What'd you say you had Tyreek Hill at, though, Pickle?
about 191.
Got him at 198, so we're close on that.
Okay.
All right. Any other pass catchers? Robinson,
Negative Ghost
Conley.
Rider.
Yeah, right. No.
Not even close.
All right. Move on to Travis Kelce then.
He counts, right?
I would hope so.
Sure.
As a pass catcher. No, Travis Kelce is more of the same. I think that touchdown rate might go down a bit just because he was at a career high and they brought in Sammy Watkins. He's really good in the red zone.
Is this one long question?
No. It's me not
Christopher Hopper?
It's me not being sure of what I'm saying, but I still love Kelsey to be, one of your top 3 tight ends over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, he's going at 306 in ADP though. Does that feel a little rich?
I mean, it's where most people would take him. I
I
don't
just
take
took
tight
it
ends that
there.
late. Did you?
In a mock, yeah.
Huh?
I went running back, tight end because, like you mentioned in text the other day, Nick, there's not a lot of depth at tight end, and there are a lot of wide receivers that I'm not in love with, but that I like a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be, you're going to have to probably reach a little bit if you want to get one of the top tight ends, or you sit and wait, like Hopper would mention on, I think, on Monday's episode, where you want to take, spend your last few rounds, drafting defense kicker and your 2 tight ends.
You mock to try out different strategies, and I'm trying that one out, but, I might like the strategy of running back, top end, tight end, and then give me a bunch of the wide receivers that I like and I'm not in love with, and a couple of them are sure to pan out.
All right. Justin, any thoughts on Kelsey?
I've got him as the finishing as the tight end 2 this upcoming year. I think in some fashion, either 2 or 3 between him and Zach Ertz. I think they're going to be fighting back and forth for that 2 or 3. I had Gronkowski just a little bit above Kelsey and Ertz, but with the Julian Edelman news of suspension, I think Rob Gronkowski benefits the most from that for those 4 games, and I think that gives him enough of a step ahead of the other 2 guys to be the top tight end, as long as he's healthy.
What do you got Kelsey at fantasy point wise?
Let me pull him up. I've got Travis Kelsey at 179.
184. All right, cool.
You guys are so cute. So cute.
Hey,
You guys are
anytime
totes
you want to
adorbs.
hang out and do projections, I'm down for that.
Yeah, right on. I've also got him ahead of Ertz, and I think Gronk will end up ahead of him. I haven't projected New England yet because I'm still working through this stuff. But yeah, I'm completely on board with what you just said, and with Kelsey being the tight end too.
Yeah, I don't know if I quite want to pay 306 for him, but probably late third, I'd be more interested.
Well, mid to late third, yeah.
Sorry, I would have taken him 308, by the way, in that mock, not 306.
Okay, so slightly lower.
Right where Nick wants him.
Yep.
2 spots later.
Well, their
Hey.
ADPs, the top 3 guys, you can't get them per their ADPs. You can't get them past the 3rd round. Everybody. Then once you get to like Ingram, Graham, Walker, Doyle, all those guys, then that jumps into like the 6, 7, and then you get. I think Doyle jumps to like 10 or 11. So
I'll take Walker in the 6th.
I'll take Kittle in the 10th.
I'll take Kittle in the 10th too.
That's my answer.
Wherever Rudolph's going, I'm all in on him.
I'll take Njoku in the 13th.
That too. I think Rudolph's like 8 or 7.
7. He's got. I think I got him at 710 is what his ADP was this morning.
All right.
Got it up here.
All right. Anything else we want to add on the Chiefs before we jump into a beer review?
Nope.
7-3.
Let's
Beer review.
Shut up. Listen to the music.
Good times. Good times.
I love Wednesday episodes.
What'd you guys think of Oskar Blues Old Chub Scotch Ale?
For a Scotch ale, it kind of kicked me in the face at first because it has a lot more flavor than normal Scotch ales do. It's a bit stronger in alcohol content, I think, than most of them. But overall, kind of that roasty sweetness that you're used to from those, it's there, and it's there more prominently than any others I had. It's good, but just expect when you take that first drink that it's a lot more flavorful than what you're used to from Scotch ales.
Yeah, it doesn't fuck around.
No, it does not.
I got a new Chub.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, fantastic Scotch style ale. If you're looking for something heavy on the front forward Scotch flavor, this is a great one to take a look at. Comes in at 8%, so you probably don't need too many of them. Thank you, Oskar Blues. You're one of the first breweries you had on, 3rd time on the show. Thank you so much for basically featuring all of our AFC West episodes.
Not that you have a choice.
All right, moving on to the Broncos.
Yeah,
You gonna be okay?
I'll be fine.
All right, kicking it off with Case Keenum. Came off a career year last year. Is 20th in points per game. Currently going as the 23rd quarterback off the board at 14.08 for ADP. Do we think that's a fair price for Case Keenum this year?
1408? Sure.
God, he's dropped then.
That's a dart.
I'm a 1301.
It's a dart throw.
I pulled this yesterday, so it may have changed overnight.
No, I mean, I did mine.
By over a round?
But like 5 days ago.
It's last couple rounds get crazy
Case
for
is at,
fluctuation.
he's at 1407. That's insane. All right.
Wow.
I take that. I like Case Keenum this year.
I don't know
all
that
day.
Yeah, I'll take it just because of the weapons he has and there's upside there. I don't know if he repeats last year, but it's worth the shot at that price.
I mean, his connection with Thielen last year was insane. He had so many lucky throws that he just heaved up, and Thielen happened to be there to catch
hope
it.
to God he makes that same connection with Demaryius Thomas.
That would be lovely. That would be a lot of fun for fantasy.
Yeah, or Sanders.
Yeah, that I would love Emmanuel Sanders because then I could finally freaking trade him.
Oh.
All right, we got a dynasty trade quote in for the episode. We met our quota.
Yes, we did.
All right, what do you think of Keenum there, Justin?
I've got him projected at around, I think, quarterback 19 this year. So I just think that he was 14 last year. I think he doesn't hit that level. I think that's kind of the height of what you're going to see out of Case Keenum. I mean, I'm not saying he can't hit that again, that level, but I just think coming into a new offense, even though he does have tons of weapons and the defense there in Denver is good, it's going to keep them in games while he's kind of getting familiar with everybody. I still think that the offense is going to kind of, from everything I'm hearing offensively, it sounds like the run game is the most important, and it's going to be the core of the offense per the head coach. So whether that's Royce Freeman or Devontae Booker or it's some form of 1 and 2 in that way, I just think that the run game is still going to be a prominent thing. But I think that he's going to be in the same situation kind of last year where he's not having to win games. He doesn't have to go be the guy, where he can kind of just manage the game and get points and get yardage and get them down the field.
Well, that seems like a good transition point then. Justin, what do you think of Royce Freeman?
Oh, I'm all in on the Royce Freeman hype. All in on that hype.
I just made a new
please.
best friend.
I'm pretty sure you guys have been best friend this entire episode.
You just didn't know it yet.
I didn't.
All right.
Just saying, Royce Freeman, I'm all about him.
Yeah, so am I. I have been since I watched his tape. He's I could go on and on about it. I think he's got a lot of Le'Veon Bell to his game, and I think that when you look at his college production, there's only one other guy that's even come close to matching it. It's Donnell Pumphrey, and he's a ton smaller. I'm all about Royce Freeman.
Yeah, he's currently going in 508 for ADP, so you can actually get him at a decent value if you take him in the mid or early 5th. 27th running back off the board. He's 26th in my rankings, and that might move up here if I get any positive news that he's going to take this job.
He's bigger and more dynamic than Booker, and to me, it's not if, it's when.
Yep, and that's my notes. I have him as my rate 29. I think Booker will kind of play that, fuck you to Royce Freeman owners until, a few weeks into the season. And then I think Royce takes this entire backfield over and sees himself around 70% opportunity share.
Justin, what do you at Freeman in your early projections?
I've actually got him currently at 29 until we get a little more out of the gray area, figuring out what the actual backfield is going to be. I think ultimately, as we get into camp and once we get into the preseason, I think Royce Freeman is going to be the guy. We talked about this on the show last week, that I just think that they're going to give Devontae Booker the option to see if he can be the guy during preseason and whatnot. But ultimately, when the season starts and even to the first quarter of the season, I think Freeman's going to be the guy going forward.
Yep. All right. Well, the two guys they got behind him, Devontae Booker and D'Angelo Henderson, which is also kind of a show favorite here.
Yeah,
how do you think it shakes out between those two?
Booker's going to get the first crack at being the handcuff, if not even the starter, but I think that doesn't last through preseason. I like D'Angelo Henderson, but he needs to flash it and he needs to show it at the NFL level, which he didn't. He didn't have a lot of opportunity last year, so I'm Mulligan, I guess. He's still on the roster, so I think he'll get a shot at some point, but he's a little bowling ball of a person. He had a lot of MJD to his game, so I wouldn't be surprised if he ultimately takes it, just because I think he might even be more dynamic than Devontae Booker, but I think Booker's got first crack at it.
All right, where would you take Booker?
Would you draft Booker?
Would I draft Booker?
That is a better question.
Probably not, but if I did, we're talking probably around 9 or 10.
Okay, he's going 10.06 in ADP right now.
So, okay, then yeah.
He's moving up.
It would be worth the stash for me at that point.
Dan?
I think just because he'll have the first crack to start the season, I think they want to give him a chance. I don't know why. He's had 3.5 yards per carry and 3.8 in his first 2 seasons. I don't have any faith in him at all, but I think they'll want to maybe give him a chance because he's, been there longer.
Didn't he kind of get the chance last year, though?
He had kind of. It was still Anderson.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all team Freeman here. It's not if, it's when. So,
Welcome aboard. We'll get you a membership card.
All right. Any thoughts on Booker or Henderson there, Justin?
I think that ultimately, I think Booker, if I'm going to take somebody not named Royce Freeman, it would be Booker, but I still am not 100% sold on Booker being the guy. So I've got projected somewhere around, or at the moment, I got him at somewhere around 115, Devontae Booker, and then I've got Royce Freeman around 143, I think 144 fantasy points and half point. And I think that could increase Royce Freeman number-wise. I can increase that and take off Booker as the season gets closer.
I think Freeman's gonna be one of the better plays second half season. I think he's gonna be a darling and kind of be
All right, so we're calling it
a league winner.
We'll call it here. He'll be a second round pick next year.
No, I'm calling Kareem Hunt. I think
Yeah.
Devontae Booker tears an ACL in
In the third game on his first carry.
in preseason, and it's Royce Freeman.
All right,
Well, now we've gotten dark.
we called Kareem Hunt. Got it. All right, moving on to the wide receiver core. Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders headline this. Who do you prefer between them, and where would you take each one in your drafts?
Well, it's Demaryius Thomas, and I'm taking him into the third, towards the fourth round. I think he's one of the better kind of second to third tier wide receivers out there. Just because of the talent and the upside. Yeah, he's getting older, but you saw Case Keenum support two, wide receiver 1/2s last year. So it's Demaryius Thomas because of the talent for me. And then I think Emmanuel Sanders does have a rebound year. So you may be back in a situation where you had them running, back to back for a while.
I like them both. Thomas is my 20. Sanders is my 34. Thomas, 405 ADP. That's probably gone up because it's been a few days since I've done this.
Nope, still
I checked
405.
it. Sanders is 801. Give me that all day. That's fantastic ADP for Emmanuel Sanders. I think he's going to be closer to where Thomas is right now. Keenum supported 197 targets to both Diggs and Thielen. That was when Diggs missed time, got hurt in certain games, whatever. Sanders is, I think, more like Thielen.
Well, it's not like Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are the picture of health here.
True. But I think Sanders is more like Thielen, which is what Case preferred, but Thomas is, he's not like Diggs or Thielen. He's just a big outside-bodied receiver who's going to command.
He's not like all the other girls.
Yeah.
All right, Justin.
Yeah, I've got Demaryius Thomas at 19, and I've got Emmanuel Sanders at 30.5 points. So I think that's a comfortable spot for them at the moment, which it could always go up or down depending on camp and preseason and whatnot. But I think that's where I've got them comfortably at the moment.
So based on where they're going ADP wise, you're going to be seeing way more Sanders than Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all about Demaryius Thomas this year just because he finally has a quarterback who can throw the ball to him. But ultimately, I don't think that I'm going to be able to get him at the spots that I want to get him at in ADP because I think everybody else is coming off the Keenum hype as well and expecting him just to do exactly what he did in Minnesota. So,
all right. Any other wide receivers you're interested in this year?
Man, I really do like Cortland Sutton. I like him.
I like Cortland Sutton also. I just don't know that if Keenum can support 3. But I think if either one of Sanders or Thomas struggles, then Cortland Sutton's going to be a very interesting person. He's an end of draft dart throw. Or if they get hurt, absolutely. So I think he's on the field. I think you probably see Sanders slide more into the slot, which he started to do last year with Sutton and Thomas on the outside. But if anything happens to either of those two top receivers, Sanders and Thomas, be it injury or underperformance, Cortland Sutton's going to be intriguing, and he's a guy that I'd absolutely recommend taking a throw on at the end of your draft with upside.
Especially if you're like 16 teams and you need a few flyers.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he's worth drafting in the 12th, especially with the Henderson news of him might not even making the team this year because he can't get on the field. Sutton in that third role or that second outside role could have a chance to, if he flashes, because he's still raw, that he can be a great red zone target. He's fantastic as a he's an above average route runner. He's great with his cuts. I mean, this is a guy that could even supplant the Thomas or Sanders because he takes that next step.
And Justin, where do you have Sutton in your rookie wide receiver rankings?
Oh man, my rookie wide receiver rankings, I don't have them up in front of me, but I know I've got him somewhere in that top 5 wide receiver talk. Honestly, I just think that he is, for this year specifically going forward, I just think that he's in a perfect situation because Thomas and Sanders are both going to be shipped out into the year, and I think him and Hamilton step up and be the new era there in Denver. So
I love Deshaun Hamilton and Chad Kelly coming down the pipe.
AK-47
Quarterback of the future.
All right.
Jeez.
Any thoughts on the tight ends?
They exist.
No.
They have tight ends.
They were both good tight ends, and they were both good in college. Jake Butt coming out of Michigan and Hireman coming out of Ohio State. They're both talented, but neither one of them are like the echelon of tight ends that you're going to want to draft.
I think
they might be somebody late round, like if you're at a throwaway pick in the rounds 14 or 15 at the end of your draft. But overall, I'm not targeting any of them.
Jake Butt and, Troy Fumagalli being there also, but I like Butt more.
There it is.
Jake Butt has the outside shot at eventually being a Jack Doyle type of tight end, I think.
I agree. I watched both Hireman and Jake Butt out of and being a Big Ten fan, so I've seen both of them in person, and they're both athletic tight ends. I just think that the offense is going to continue to run through the running back and whichever wide receiver Keenum locks on.
Yep.
Yeah. If you are looking dynasty, though, Jake Butt's the play, right?
Yep. I like Butt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do all the Butt stuff.
All right. Let's move on to the new Chucky-driven Raiders.
Jesus.
The
No.
Raiders.
The Raiders.
Yikes.
Sorry for thinking you were a fan of them.
Hey, not a problem.
All right. Derek Carr, who I know a lot of people are starting to hype up this year.
Are they?
We don't feel the same way, I'm pretty sure.
Where?
I did that quarterback sleeper pick. I had a bunch of votes for Derek Carr.
Huh.
Because of his sophomore season. That's
Weird.
probably the only reason why.
So Jon Gruden, first off, very historically prefers a more balanced offense. He's even ran more sometimes than he's passed, at least in one season. Whereas Greg Olson was Gus Bradley's offensive coordinator that couldn't figure out that moving Allen Robinson around to create matchup problems was a good idea. So I'm not high on this offense right now. For Derek Carr, I think he's probably better than Josh Freeman and Mark Bolger and whatever else not named Blake Bortles Greg Olsen had to work with. But career low 516 pass attempts last season, elevated TD rate and interception rate, completion percentage and yard stats were in line with his career. I don't expect a big jump from his 10.8 yards per completion just because he doesn't work the ball downfield, but they did some things to help the O-line with Colton Miller. So, I don't think that the issue, though, was him under pressure. He was 8th in that regard as far as completion percentage under pressure. So for me, Derek Carr's Alex Smith, and not last year Alex Smith, like career Alex Smith.
And he also can't run, so worse Alex Smith.
Worse Alex Smith.
Yeah, he's 22nd in my rankings. He's currently going 1207 in ADP. I would not draft him currently in a one quarterback.
He's my 24.
Redraft.
I'm not touching him.
Justin?
I'm on board with 22. That's where I've got him at.
Yep.
Yeah, he's just never had the efficiency stats to point to him having a blow up type season. And that was with him having two of the best receivers in the game, with Cooper having his great sophomore year and Crabtree just blowing up that season for him to even have anything close to a top 12 season.
Yeah, he needs volume.
He doesn't have Crabtree anymore. I don't think Jordy Nelson could properly replace him. Martavis Bryant's probably going to be suspended. I'm not a fan of Derek Carr.
Nope. Me either.
All right. Moving on to the running game. Marshawn Lynch, Doug Martin.
This is going to be frustrating.
And gross.
So Marshawn Lynch, first off, fewest rush per attempt. I just forgot how to talk. Fewest rush attempts in a season that he wasn't injured. However, his efficiency was not bad at all. He's 4.3 per carry, right in line with his career. First in juke rate, second in evaded tackles.
So weird to think
Third
about.
in yards created. 4.5 yards per carry against stacked fronts. The guy can still play and still get it done. They just didn't utilize him.
And then they brought in Doug Martin to make it even more confusing.
Well,
Jon Gruden's got like a fucking massive boner for.
that doesn't necessarily confuse me with Martin. You're going to get a 60-40 split. Martin's going to get passing work, and I think Marshawn Lynch gets most of the 1-2 down between the tackles stuff.
Which makes both of them pretty worthless.
Yeah.
I don't hate Martin. That is 10 ADP.
What's Lynch's?
Lynch is 709.
I don't hate that.
I mean, Deion Lewis is going right before that.
I'd rather have Deion Lewis, yeah, but I don't hate Marshawn Lynch there either, just because, if Gruden doesn't do whatever the hell they did last year and say, okay, no more than 15 carries, or whatever the hell it was that they were doing, and he even gives him 2 more carries a game to bump him up to 230, I think that if he keeps his current efficiency, which is what I projected him to do, he breaks 1,000 yards. Lynch does.
Okay. Justin, your thoughts on these two?
I personally am not drafting either one of them just because the uncertainty of Lynch and, as we call him on our show, the rejected Ninja Turtle, Doug Martin. If I had to choose between one of the two, I would take Marshawn just because I just think he's going to be. I think he's going to be the bruiser guy, and he's going to have more potential red zone opportunities. But I just don't know what they're doing. Like, if they brought in a lesser running back or a lesser known back, I would have been like, yeah, it's Marshawn's backfield where Washington and Rashard somehow figure out a way to get in there. But the fact they brought in Doug Martin, that tells me that Gruden's either crazy, which he may be, or he just wants to see some sort of competition, or maybe he's just trying to give Doug Martin a chance, trying to help a guy out. I don't know.
I mean, based on the free agent signings, I'm going with crazy.
I am also going with crazy.
It's crazy.
I don't know what the hell he's doing.
But yeah, this backfield scares the hell out of me. I'm honestly leaning more Martin just because I can take him close to the back end of the 10th, and it's just a dart throw and I'll churn him if nothing happens. But I'm not real excited to take either one.
No.
Not at all.
All right, let's move on to this passing game. Amari Cooper, Jordy Nelson, Martavis Bryant. Kicking it off with Cooper. Do we finally see a breakout for him?
I do.
Define breakout. I think that you
top 15 finish.
Okay, yeah. I think you see a bounce back from him. He's done that before.
Too.
He's done the top 15 thing before, so I think you see a bounce back from him. He had 6.9 targets per game last year for 96 total. That was low for him. Crabtree had 7.8. I expect with Crabtree gone, that Amari Cooper's about at 8.2 per game. 67.7% catchable target rate was a full 5 points lower than the previous year. It's a product of the offense. Drops in reliability are still a problem for him. He's going to need to solve that to get. And the other thing that concerned me a bit with him is he stopped winning contested balls last year. He didn't do that nearly as well. So I do expect a target increase for Cooper. I think the red zone might still be a problem, especially with the addition of Jordy Nelson there. But ultimately, I think that the volume's up. I think his efficiency bounces back a little bit. I don't think he's back to the 62.2% catch rate that he was before. But I think that high 50s is probably likely. And, breakout, no. I don't think it's better than anything he's done. I think it's a return to the norm.
All right. Justin, your thoughts on Amari?
Man, my co-host, my buddy Blackburn on the show, he took Amari Cooper early last year, right around where his ADP was, and man, he was disappointed a lot last year. And then of course he traded him away, and then he got him back when he had that one game, and he didn't play him in that Kansas City game where he blew up, and then he played him once or twice afterwards. And I think he sat on his bench the rest of the year just because he just couldn't stand the guy. But I think he gets back into that talk. I've got him at 16, actually, so just right outside the top 15. And I think that's based on the uncertainty of what type of offense Gruden's going to want to do, honestly. I think he's going to want to try to do old school ground and pound run offense with some passing down the field. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's more on the play calling and not on the talent of Amari Cooper that I'm dinging the Raiders passing game.
So I had a little bit of fun. I talked to these guys off air about this. I spent way too much time deep diving Jon Gruden's wide receiver ones throughout his coaching career, and I also did the wide receiver twos. Wide receiver ones in Coach Gruden's offense, on average, 137 targets, 78 receptions, 1155 yards, 8 touchdowns, which would have been good for 241.5 points. Wide receiver 8 if it was this season. Just a couple notes on that. Every receiver had 1,000 yards or more, and every receiver but one had over 100 targets. It's where with the touchdowns where things get a little bit interesting. Only 2 receivers had double-digit touchdowns. But moving on to the wide receiver twos, this is where things get a little bit interesting. I also have Jerry Rice's 2001 year with them, where he had a wide receiver one finish. He pretty much matched what Tim Brown did that year. On average, they put up 78 targets, 44 receptions, 618 yards, and 4 touchdowns, which is good for 121.8. Wide receiver 56. Only one receiver saw more than 100 targets if you're not taking Jerry Rice's season into account at 101. Other highs were 62 receptions, 722 yards, and 6 touchdowns, which happened 3 times, or the wide receiver 31. I love Cooper because I think they're going to feature Cooper in this offense more so than anything else. They've already come out and said that. I'm not in love with Jordy or Bryant if he plays, but it's been 10 years since he's coached. So who knows?
What influences the offense more here? The offensive coordinator or the head coach?
He's an offensive-minded head coach. I'm going with the head coach.
I think it's just with Gruden's personality, too, and the fact that he's...
Does the coordinator have an effect at all? Because this is one of the weirdest marriages to me that I've seen in my life.
And that's why it's hard to predict. It's like, but I had fun figuring this out, too.
The reason that I say that it's weird is because you've got Jon Gruden, who typically runs a more balanced offense, and Greg Olsen, who apparently hates to run the football and just loads his wide receivers up. So I kind of took the aggregate of the two with a little bit more weight towards Gruden. I still have Jordy under 100 targets.
Yeah.
Or no, I don't. I think I had him at 102. So it was right around there. Can't remember if it was 97 or 102. I don't have it in front of me.
Doesn't matter.
5 targets. I'm not going to quabble over that. You look at what this offense did historically also with the personnel. I think that Jordy, you've seen his catch rate go down in each of the last 6 years, but I think that he's still got some in the tank, especially down in the red zone. So I don't expect him to be like hyper efficient per se. I do think that he is the type of receiver that is also a good route runner that can work underneath and fit Derek Carr a bit, especially if they decide to use him out of the slot, which depending on what happens with Bryant, they may or may not. So I'm a little bit more optimistic because of the aggregate of Greg Olsen being there and him influencing it because he is more of a passing offensive coordinator.
He is going at 805. What do you feel about that?
Nope.
I'd prefer it a couple rounds later. I'm going to take a guy that I think that I'm a little bit more in tune with our upside on at that round.
A guy I know who's going in the 10th round who I'd rather take over Jordy Nelson is like Rashard Matthews.
Well, let's put it this way. I know Nelson Aguilar is going in the 13th, and I'd rather have him.
Yeah,
Jamison Crowder is going in the 9th, which I would much rather have too.
I think that was closer for me. I think Jordy got the edge based on touchdowns.
All right. Justin, any thoughts on Jordy Nelson?
I think he comes in and takes a lot of the red zone targets just because I think that's where he's comfortable at, honestly. Especially, and the thing is, if Martavis Bryant's not in there, I think that also takes away and adds more to maybe Nelson's plate for red zone targets because I think that's where Martavis Bryant was going to be helpful in this offense primarily was red zone. But I don't know, man. I've got him projected out around 120 fantasy points and a half point, and then I've got Cooper at about 182 in the half point. So I just think that you're going to see them both featured. I think Cooper's going to be the more featured, obviously, to get him down the field. But I do think that Nelson's going to see some red zone opportunities.
Okay. And then do you think Bryant's suspended, or what are you expecting for that?
Oh, man. It's hard to tell with Roger Goodell and that office as to who's going to get what, and it's never, like, across the board. But I think that if it's what they're saying happened where he did not attend certain meetings and or tests that he was supposed to, technically by the NFL Players Association and NFL's agreement on that, the drug policy testing and all that, he will be suspended for all of this year.
Fun.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting too, based on what I'd heard. All right, any last thoughts on Bryant before we move on to the tight ends?
No, I don't. I didn't have thoughts on Bryant beforehand.
All right, Jared Cook. Last thoughts on him before we wrap up this division.
Not much for a red zone threat historically, but he did have 5.3 targets per game last season. Seems pretty reasonable, especially with Bryant's suspension hold. So, back end tight end 1 just on pass volume.
If Bryant does get suspended for the year, I'll bump Cook up. But historically, Gruden's kind of been meh. For tight ends, 55 target, 34 receptions, 370 yards and 3 touchdowns, which was 89 points. And PPR, good for tight end 25.
10 years ago, though, different era.
That's the argument where this is. Cook's also probably one of the better tight ends he'll have, even though he's old.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little higher. I think I got him at tight end 21. Maybe,
he's my 20.
Line him up at fullback and put an all-star jersey on him.
There we go. All the touchdowns from the 1 yard line. Anything else we want to add here on the Raiders?
Nope.
No.
All right.
No, I'm good. They're going to be an interesting team to watch, though, for sure.
Yeah, I don't have very high expectations for them this year. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up the AFC West. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Justin, do you want to give us one last shout-out for where we can find you at?
Yeah, you can find me at jpickleTH8FF, but the show itself is at the Hateful 8FF, and that's the numerical 8, so not spelled out like EAIGHT. So it's actually the numerical 8.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that at the bottom of the screen. You've got Justin's Twitter handle, and then in the lower part of that, the show's Twitter handle.
Yep, and you can find them on YouTube as well. They are at the Hateful 8 on YouTube. Anywhere else we can find you at specifically?
We're on Facebook and we are on Instagram as well. We're starting that up as well. So that's we're trying different avenues to kind of get more listeners and to try to get our name out there a little bit more. So
It's fun.
The World Wide Web also, thehateful8.com.
There you
this
go.
is true.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on, Justin. You can find us at BeerFueledFF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. If you guys want to see can art and or beer reviews, check out those last two sources. Beer Fueled Fantasy Football for Facebook and YouTube. Remember to send in those entries to the Listener League for subscribing to the YouTube channel, liking us on Facebook, or dropping a review on iTunes. Anything else you want to shout out before we call this an episode?
We got merch.
We do have merch.
And we're going to
We have
be in
merch.
Fort Worth in a few weeks.
In a little over a month, we will be in
In
Fort
a little
Worth,
over a month.
or a little under a month, I'm sorry. We'll be
Yeah.
in Fort Worth, Texas to do the NFFC. We'll be at the National Fantasy Football Convention. Come check us out there. Tweet at us to try to find meet up with us while we're at the convention.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to us. That was the AFC West. We'll catch you guys
Next time.
when we're doing the NFC South and AFC South. Later.
Peace.